What we have here is a very interesting take on indie horror that also takes a lot of inspiration from classic horror, with a first-person experience under the name of Undead Sentence that has been developed using a very unique and rare and often unheard of game engine by the name of Easy FPS Editor. And funny enough, this particular engine is gaining popularity and traction because a lot of boomer shooters and shorter experiences are making their way onto modern platforms. A lot of games developed on the likes of itch.io and even with Steam predominantly are being developed using this engine, and they do get quite good results. Now, it is limited in terms of what it can do compared to more modern kind of platforms. If you look at the likes of Unreal, Unity, Godot, which is open source, yes, they have a lot more going for it, but you can also do a lot more with them. Where Easy FPS Editor really focuses on is just first person kind of aesthetics and just gameplay. If you look in mind of the likes of even the old build engine that would have been used to make games likes of Blood, Duke Nukem and other games like it, even when you look at the likes of Doom for instance, you can definitely see where the inspiration lies with this game here on Undead Sentence. And what's even more interesting with it as well is that this particular demo and game is currently in active development from another YouTuber under the name of Artificially Inked. I will leave a link down to his channel down in the description below, and he covers a lot of elements with regards to the development of this game, but he also covers a lot of tutorials showing people how to use the engine, how to use all of the actions, all of the features, how to program specific game logic to get things to move and interact the way that they do. So it is very, very cool. Even for myself, I've been watching a lot of these tutorials, and I've even been watching quite a few of his videos recently because I'm getting familiar, I'm getting into learning to use the engine because it's something I'd love to actually try my hand at getting back into, because I did do game development back when I was in college a few years ago. Now, a lot has changed since then, and there's a lot more tools and resources that are now available, and they're more easily accessible. And the more I see this, even though yes, it is limited in terms of its scale, but it looks like it's more approachable for someone that is more on the beginner stages, which for me, going back, because it has been a long time since I tried to do all of this, I would have to go back to my roots and kind of like learn how to do all of this stuff again. And I think that this here engine in particular would be one of the best examples to learn game development all over again, because it has a really good direction in terms of its overall systems that are in place, even its map design, everything is approachable. Now, it's not without its flaws, it obviously does have its bugs and stuff because it's still kind of like catered to different dynamics, but the games that are being created with it are very, very good. And if anything, like considering the limitations, it's very like when you put in mind of the likes of classic consoles with the likes of the early PlayStation, Sega Saturn and so forth. The limitations of those platforms only allowed for more creativity to take place, because you've seen some of the games, or many of the games that have appeared on them over years, some of them being some of the greatest games ever made, and it's because of those heavy limitations that allowed for that to happen. And the same can be said here. Some of the games that you can find even now on Steam, even with this particular game here, showcases some of that creativity in great detail. With this particular game, however, regards to the story, you play as a prison inmate who is locked inside of the prison kind of format, but he's also in the middle of some sort of viral outbreak which is causing all of the inhabitants and prisoners to be turned into like monsters and zombies, which also leads to cleanup crews coming in to wipe out all of the threats, and you end up getting caught up in that, thinking that you're also infected as well. So you have to try and fight for survival in any way, shape or form possible. So you'll have to grab anything that you can, from like lead pipes to guns, handguns, shotguns, even automatic rifles, just to have enough there to try and survive. So you'll find yourself exploring, solving puzzles, flicking switches, kind of like what you do with classic horror games. But it's really cool to see this in development, and you can actually see the live action kind of things playing out. Even if you head over to the Artificially Inked channel, he will cover like devlogs and kind of like go over elements that he's doing when he's developing the game and how he's interacting and getting things to work, which is very, very cool. But what's interesting is the fact is, yes, it looks old, but it feels modern at the same time. Like even the sprites are on screen with regards to the enemies and the weapons that you use. Everything has been modelled in 3D, but has been rendered out in 2D for the sprites and that populate the screen. So it still looks very, very realistic and almost modern, if you will. And the very fact is with this engine as well too, yes, like I said, it does have its limitations, but not everything is developed in 2D. It does have a format that can allow you to import your own 3D models and even animations into the experience as well. So there's multiple avenues to create very in-depth and unique and just very detailed experiences overall. and from the early premise of this game it shows that in great detail, and there's a lot here. Like, this demo is quite long. Like, you'll find yourself going through many different scenarios where you have to hunt down key cards and you have to find your way to unlock different areas. You'll be climbing through vents to reach different areas, just to backtrack, to acquire weapons, and different things will play out depending on where you go and what you do and who you interact with. You will get help along the way from someone who's also like of a call centre that's also giving you guidance as to where to go next, so that will really help. But there's quite a lot here. Like, even from when I played this demo, it took me the course of nearly half an hour to get through it. Now obviously I would get through it quicker if I knew really what I was doing, but I was getting familiar with the mechanics and the controls, because essentially it uses the keyboard in the beginning just to get familiar with everything. But once you understand what to do, it is very like playing a lot of your typical first person kind of experiences. But it's just really cool because yes, it is classed as a modern game, but it looks very retro and just has a unique kind of style to it and theme. And the fact is that it's horror based, even though it does have action elements to it. It is very cool. Even the ambience, the music, and just the background sound effects and that, it is quite creepy. And the zombies will appear, even though you'll hear them a lot of times before you see them. It does kind of leave you on edge. Now, as it is an early demo, it's still work in progress, so there are things obviously that can be improved, which you will see in future updates, but it will be interesting to see where this goes when the game is fully released. But I think it's a really good example of what this engine can do. And for me personally, I do be looking at a lot of tutorials in this because I'm really interested in using this engine myself, and I would be looking at getting back into game development at some point. But I think if I was to really take it on board, this is the engine I think I'll be using, because it's more catered towards that format. Like, beginners can use it, plus you can use elements from other programs as well, and you can integrate it once you know what you're doing. Right, obviously it has its own kind of like scripting elements and logic behind it, but from finding tutorials online, it doesn't look like it'll be overly difficult to learn over time. Now again, that's the thing, time. It will take time to learn these things, but this just showcases what can be done with a little bit of creativity and know-how, and just the willingness to sit down with the engine and just figure things out. I think it's very cool. You can find the engine itself, you can download it for free on itch.io. I'll leave a link in the description that you can have a look at it as well, if that's something you're interested in doing. But this here demo really gives you an example of what's possible. You're only limited by your imagination, and you can still be creative even within those limitations. If anything, is probably the best way to approach it. You work with what you have and you go from there, and if you can create something that's even close to this or resembles this in any way, you're doing a good job. Yeah, I think this is one that's interesting. I enjoyed my time playing this, and it will be interesting to see what the full release will be like. But if you want to know more about this game's development, you can head on over to the Artificially Inked channel, and that way then you can see for yourself, just to keep updated with what's going on with it. But it's a cool mix of like action and horror, but has an old school kind of style vibe and aesthetic to it that is very reflective not only of classic horror games, but also of first person shooters with the likes of Doom, Duke Nukem, Blood, even Quake if you will. I know Quake's in fully 3D, but still it has those elements to it, and this engine definitely allows you to have those gameplay styles in place. So yeah, it is really interesting, and like, you can be as creative as you want. That's the thing about it. If you know how to model like 3D graphics, you can have them like low poly, you can have them like really high rendered, and then render them out as 2D sprites, and as you can see here, they do look very cool and very intimidating as well. And if you like that old style of FPS shooter, then yeah, definitely have a blast with it for sure. But I would definitely recommend that you check this out. There is a demo on Steam, I'll leave a link below. I would recommend you give it a go if you do like these classic style of games. With that being said, however, I would love to know your thoughts on this. What do you think of it overall? Do you like these type of games, like first person shooters, or even ones that put elements of horror into them like this one's doing? And if you have played it, what do you think of it overall? Would you be interested in playing the full version of this when it does release? So be sure to share it down in the comments below. And if you would like to see more content around other types of interesting games in development like this, using that engine, I'll make sure to cover them in future videos, as it is an interesting tool to have if you're into game development. And if you would like to see content I've covered previously with elements similar to this, you can check out this next video.